Welcome, everybody. One Fun Guy podcast live in the studio. Today, my guest is going to be Mike with Mike's Crafty Fishing. Mike, tell us a little about yourself and how you started this adventure.
My name is Mike. Marco and I actually went to high school together. So I was really into golfing for years and years. And then I tore my rotator cuff and I needed something to do. I needed a hobby. So I took up fishing. And how the channel started was I had never fished before. My dad didn't fish. I didn't grow up fishing. I just bought some stuff and I'm like, I'm going to go figure this thing out. And as I was out there, I realized like I was just doing ridiculously stupid things that I found funny. And I was like, maybe other people will find this funny. So I started recording myself. And the incident that made me think that was I was watching all these YouTube videos of these fishermen with these crazy hook sets where you hook a fish and they do this, they pull back to wedge it into the hook into the mouth. And I remember I was fishing. It was like my first week doing it. And I felt the tug. So I did this crazy hook set. But what I really put together was the guys that do that have like 8-pound bass on. Turned out this was a bluegill. This thing, I launched it out of the water, off my hook, into a field. I had to go get it, put it back, and I was just laughing at myself. I'm like, I bet people would like to watch this. And they do. They do. I get a lot of, this is how I fish, this is realistic. So that's how it started.
That's awesome, because I know your channel's been gaining a lot of steam, right? Like, a lot of people are commenting and like getting involved with this. Is it something now that you've gotten to the point where like you pick places you want to go to fish, or is it like, do people give you, kind of, hey, you should check out this pond or check out this river, or go to this quarry?
Yeah, so I get a lot of that. And I've recently been getting a ton of come fish with me. Can I meet you to fish? Which I think is super cool. My wife thinks it's a little weird and I might end up like a lampshade in someone's basement or something.
Right.
But also something that's been happening a lot lately is I get recognized a ton. Every time I go to Cabela's, someone's like, hey, I watched your TikTok. I was at Three Oaks yesterday fishing. Same thing. Dude gets out of his car. He's like, I watch you on TikTok every day. I think it's pretty cool, but my wife thinks it's a little
I
odd.
get that.
But yeah. But we're just different, So.
Yeah. So when you go, what do you do? Just set up your camera? Do you have like, is it just your phone, or is it like, do you have like?
Yeah, it's just my phone. It started with my iPhone. It's been my phone, but I'm thinking I'm gonna have to like buy other stuff now that that's in some steam.
Yeah, so that's exactly it, right? So like when I started on my own old Samsung Galaxy that I had laying around because it was the only thing I had. And then I did the same thing. I went and I was like, hey, I asked Crystal, I'm like, can I borrow your iPad? She's like, what do you need it for? I'm like, well, the phone's not working. So now I've kind of upgraded. I was lucky I had a good basement spot down here to do the studio. But when I started, I had nothing. And now I kind of have a nice little setup here. But It's just interesting, right? As you gain steam and as you start going with it, you kind of are like, all right, now I need like a stand. I need something to hold this device. I need something to, and then now you want better quality, you want better sound, right? And so it's kind of a unique anomaly that like you kind of have a nice following where you could actually get a couple bucks to start putting towards some equipment. It's a unique thing.
For sure. And it's especially because I'm outside. So if it's windy, it can wreak havoc with the volume. So yeah, I got to get some microphones and stuff like that. And I want to get one of those I can have like multiple angles. They make the chest one so you can actually see what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And what's really cool that happened as I did this is my kids got into it. Even my oldest, who's 22, he like is super interested in fishing now, and it's kind of like almost a rebonding experience.
Sure.
When you're 22, you're off doing your own thing, but now we go fishing all the time, so it's pretty cool. It's been a wild. I never thought that people would like watch this religiously. Like I have some hardcore people that watch
Yeah.
everything I do, that are commenting on everything I do. And that's pretty cool. And people have sent me stuff in the mail. I got this whole big like gift package with all kinds of really nice lures and stuff in there from this other content creator on TikTok. Her name is Fishing Mama Chris. She lives in Oregon, I believe. Her channel's awesome. I would highly recommend checking her channel out. She's a kayak fisher person. I don't know, is it fisherman, fisher person, angler? She's a kayak angler.
Yeah.
She's got good content. But yeah, it's cool. It's cool. And I got I did a couple of videos on like littering, like fishermen will leave their trash and stuff all over, and it kind of pisses me off. So I did a couple videos like that, and stoplittering.com sent me some gear, just t-shirts and sweatshirts and stuff. So it's cool how it's kind of taken off. And this media company called Arc Entertainment reached out. They wanted a couple of my videos, and they'll split the I can't get paid yet. I haven't hit the followers. But they have like 200,000 followers, and they're like, we'll split it 50-50. So I let them use a couple of my videos. I saw the Grim Reaper skeleton one. That one like blew up.
Okay.
And they wanted that one. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So now when you go, do you like when you started out, did you just have like a basic rod? Did you have like any kind of idea what you wanted to do? Or did you like say, okay, I have a budget of this and I'm going to buy this? Or did you have like, how did this start? Did you?
So it actually started because my youngest, my dad gave him all of our old fishing stuff. And, you know, he was interested in fishing for like a week. You know, kids move on to other stuff. So I started using this old stuff that I had used when I was a kid. And then as I got more and more into it, my wife is like, dude, there's another rod in the garage. Like I have like probably 9 rods now, and they're like legit good fishing rods and reels. She's like, dude, you got to stop. And so yeah, I started with like old stuff, and then the more I watched and researched, and there's so many different techniques when you're fishing. There's and for water temperature, like when it's cold outside like this, you know, you want to fish slow because the fish are lethargic. There's just so many different techniques, and there's a rod for each technique. There's like finesse fishing, power fishing. The specifications on these rods, I had no idea existed. I thought you just went and bought a fishing rod. There's like so much stuff to know about it. It's pretty wild. But you know, for the longest time, I was like, I know everything. I'm like that coach that can coach but couldn't play.
Yeah.
You know? I knew everything. I had all the knowledge. I couldn't do it. But what's happening now is recently, this past week, like if you just started watching my channel this past week, you're gonna be like, oh, this dude can fish. I just started catching stuff this week. I don't know if it's fluke, like fish are accidentally running into my hook. It could be, but yeah, and you know, that's the other thing is my channel picked up steam when winter hit, because it was just me going out. I fished in 0 degrees and I wasn't catching anything. So when my channel took off, people thought I hadn't caught a fish. And they're like, I'm rooting for you to catch your first fish. I'm like, no, go look at my videos from May. I swear to God. Yeah, people didn't believe me.
So it was funny because obviously you got a great personality, right? You've always been funny. You've always had that kind of quirkiness. But like the videos where you caught the sticks, right? Where you were like that's kind of like what the appeal to it was, like kind of like, all right, you're not taking this so seriously. But obviously, as you get better and you start catching fish, like you want to, you know, you kind of have that dilemma now where it was like kind of started off as like, I'm such a terrible fisherman and I'm not catching anything, versus now you're reeling in, you know, bass and all these kind of you know, bigger fish. Like where does the channel take a pivot now, or does it?
So I don't know, because since that started happening, like my wife and other people were like, oh, you're going to lose your, you know, demographic. And I'm like, well, it's not like I'm still, if I catch a fish, I guarantee 3 casts later, I'm going to launch a lure into a tree. I mean, that stuff that still happens, you know?
Okay.
But it's like, yeah, I'm fishing because I want to catch fish. That's the point. But I'm not professional by any means, and that shit's still going to happen. And you know, what a lot of people that have talked to me about it identified with, they're like, yeah, everyone shows that has these fishing channels show them pulling the fish out. you know that they do all the dumb stuff that you do. They just don't put that in the video. And I'm like, well, I'm going to focus on that. That's what I'm
Right.
going to put in the video. But I mean, the amount of time that I spend out there, Marco, with versus the number of fish that I catch, I'm still really bad.
Yeah.
I'm still really
Right.
bad.
No, it's funny though, because like obviously you just mentioned that, right? You probably spend a pretty good time editing the video, right? Because if you're out there for 3 or 4 hours and you have to condense that into a 15-second clip, you
Yeah.
know, you have to watch that video over again, right? Like that's hard to say, okay, I want this 3 seconds, this 3 seconds, right? Because when you go out there, unless you're intentionally trying to make a mistake, you're
Right.
not going to catch it. If you're just casting and all of a sudden the wind takes one, well, you have to go 30 minutes into that video now to find that 12-second cast.
Editing these videos, I like it, but it's a nightmare because I'll have like 4 hours of footage and there'll be hours where like nothing happens, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, when I started, I was making long form YouTube videos and my kids were like, Dad, you gotta do the TikTok thing. You gotta shorten these up. I think this would be good for TikTok. So I listened to them, and I mean they were right. But I love editing the videos, but yeah, it can be. And then deciding like when you're taking snippets and you put them like the interesting ones, and then you attach them. Like sometimes it isn't fluid. So yeah, I mean the editing of the videos is fun but tedious for sure.
Yeah. So now when you kind of had this like, you know, idea to do this and you started, when you kind of went to your first spot and you threw out that first cast, you were just being yourself, right? Like you weren't doing anything for the camera, right? Like,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you actually brought that up because a lot of people ask me, like, are you like doing this stuff on purpose? And I swear, hand to God, anything that happens in my video is like totally organic. I'm not intentionally doing anything that just happens, you know? But I have got that question a lot. Like, is it staged or whatever? I'm like, no. And like, even my own family, one time I was fishing and someone came up to me. It was like, hey, you're Mike from Mike's Crappy Fishing. And we did a quick little video together. My family was like, yeah, did you ask that guy to do that? Did you pay him? I'm like, what?
right.
No. Like, yeah, my family doesn't like, people find my videos to be hilarious. A lot of people, my kids, they just like, they don't even watch it. They like it.
Right.
My wife, I'll hear her watch one because she knows I want her to watch it, and then she'll swipe off and I'm like, you didn't watch the whole thing, you know? Like, I'm just, you know, they know me as that, like that guy in the videos. That's how I am all the time. So I guess it can get a little tiresome, you know, live with me. Yeah. And you know, something else I think people get a kick out of, and this is stuff like I would do if the camera wasn't on. That's what kind of made me start to do this. Is I think the word is anthropomorphize, right? Anthropomorphize. I think that's the word.
Yeah, we'll go with it.
Giving the fish, like treating them like a person, like they have personality, Like I'm gonna go, like the fish intentionally are screwing with me. No, I'm gonna get them. You know, like. You know, I'll create like little scenarios like that in my head. I'm like, oh, he shook off my hook. Now his friends are laughing at me. I'm gonna go get him. Yeah, it's fun.
Cool. Now, how do you like schedule yourself? Do you say I'm going to spend this Saturday from 8 in the morning until noon, or do you just kind of pick random times when you got nothing going on? Is it?
Yeah. So luckily, I work 12-hour shifts, so I have a ton of days off. You know, people that work 12s in the public safety field, is, you know, I know you're aware of, get a lot of days off then when you're putting in your 12s. So I fish a lot during the week when, you know, wife and kids are at school and I have nothing going on. I'll go out. You know, I like to be out before sunrise, and I'll usually fish till like 11. I'll come home, eat, and then a lot of times I'll just go back out. I just like being out of the house.
Okay.
That's something else that you notice when you watch, when I started in April to now. I walked so much. You can actually see, if you look at my face, I did a video on this. I get thin, and then as the weather changes, I get fat. because I can only go to the river, and there's no walking at the river when everything's frozen. That's the only thing not frozen. But when it's not frozen, I'm walking all over the place, and I lost a lot of weight. So I'm looking forward to that weather again. You see my face puff up. But
so what's your like demographical range? Like, do you say I'm never going to travel more than an hour? Do you say, hey, I don't mind if I take a 2-hour drive to somewhere where somebody suggested? Like, do you have
I'll drive anywhere to fish. Like one of my favorite places, like there's a ton of places up by me. I'm in Algonquin. But one of my favorite places is in Hanover Park, Mallard Lake, which is like an hour, but I'll make that drive. And yeah, I'll drive anywhere. I'm thinking about going down to Lake Shelbyville's in like Southern Illinois. I think it's like 4 hours south. It's supposed to be really good fishing. But I actually we go to Florida in a couple of weeks for spring break, and there's going to be some crazy content coming because I hired a bass fishing guide to take me out on Lake Seminole, which is where they fish like the NBA of bass fishing, the Bass series. And he's a guide that has also fished on that series. So he's like, yeah, we're going to get on some monsters. And like Texas and Florida bass, like dwarf Illinois bass, like catching a 5-pound bass is normal there. If I caught a 5-pound bass here, I mean, I'd lose my mind. So he's going to take me out for 8 hours. Going to be some fun content there. And then in August, I'm actually driving up to this remote lake in the middle of nowhere, Canada, to fish. Okay. So that's going to be cool too. But as far as around here, I'll drive anywhere.
Okay.
Fish, yeah.
Yeah. I noticed that, fishing in Illinois, I've done some, but fishing, it seems like in Indiana, Wisconsin, and Michigan is way better. And I don't know why. They're not that far away. And it's like, it seems that the fish are just a better quality than they are here.
Especially like when the body of water flows into Illinois, like the Fox River starts in Wisconsin, really good up there. Once it crosses the border, everything sucks.
Yeah. It's weird, right? Because you fish in the Pike River in Wisconsin, which is right across from Lake Michigan. You catch some of the best muskie, walleye, and trout out of that river.
Yeah,
it flows into Illinois and it just turns into nothingness. I don't know why.
I don't know what it is. Speaking of trout, I caught my first trout. Did you see that one?
Okay, I did.
Last week, big brown trout on Lake Michigan in Wisconsin. But yeah, it was pretty cool. Cool. The funny thing, and I'm still concerned about this, is when I started fishing, I was like anxious to touch. I'd never really touched fish before. So in my early videos, you see me wearing a glove to lip the bass. And that's just like, you get made fun of for that. I don't do that anymore. But like when I hooked into this pike the other day for the first time, I know they have like razor sharp teeth. And their gill plates can cut you. So I put a glove on. I'm like, I don't care if anyone makes fun of me not touching this thing. So, and then I caught a walleye 2 days ago. It looked like a smallmouth to me. So I went to lip it. No, it has teeth. I was like, oh.
Right.
So it's like I'm still so naive in how to handle fish because I know they cut you all over the place if you touch them in the wrong spot. So.
Yeah, and you know what? There's nothing wrong with wearing a glove, especially river fishing, because you don't know what's attached to that, right? Like they have a lot of enzymes that get in there, and if you barehand it, there's really nothing wrong with putting a glove on. That's kind of even with the pliers, right? Getting the hook out of the mouth. Like a lot of people, go in there, but if you have a pair of pliers, it just makes it easier. Yeah. It's not that,
Yeah. And I've heard of people getting infections, like, they're getting, bite biting them and they're coated in this slime for like their own protection. So I'll be wearing a glove every time I catch a pike for sure. Yeah. I don't care.
No, nothing wrong with that. Yeah. So now as this channel expands, where do you see it going? Do you kind of have this like ideology where you're like, you kind of have this goal, or are you just taking it day by day, week by week type of thing?
Yeah. So actually just this week, I decided I'm going to start doing these challenges because people want to fish with me. I get a ton of messages, and I actually had something scheduled Saturday morning. I don't know if you saw the video I did where I hadn't caught a bass at this lake I go to all the time. And I offered someone, I put out a challenge, $50 Cabela's gift card to meet me out there. You have 3 hours to catch a bass. But we had to reschedule because the winds were so out of control.
Right.
Saturday. So we're going to go out Wednesday and do it. This guy's going to meet me out there.
Okay.
And we're going to do that. And then I think I'm going to do challenges. I'm going to, like, maybe once a week, kind of the same deal. Maybe whoever catches a fish first, and, you know, in the time frame or whatever, if they beat me, you know, they'll get a gift card or something. I'm thinking about interacting more with the people locally that follow me. So I think that might be the next step for me.
Now, was it in the back of your mind that if you ever kind of got steam with this and you actually started making real money doing this, that it would be something that you would consider moving into, like saying, hey, this is going to take over now and I'm going to, you know, is that ever thought crossed your mind?
For sure. Obviously, that's the pipe dream, right? to fish for a living and make money doing it. I would love if you know, I would love if that would happen. And that would be really sweet, because as you know, the field that I work in now is a high stress environment. And it's like, when I don't get to fish, I feel like that's a major coping skill for me, for like managing my stress on my days off, because, you know, I work such a high stress job during you know, when I'm at work, that if I don't get to go out and fish, you know, some people have to work out or they get like cranky. Like, it's the same thing for me if I don't get to go do my thing. So yeah.
Nice. I always wonder, because, like, obviously I started the podcast because I figured when I retire in 7 years, it would be nice if I could get a, you know, couple $100 doing this, you know, from YouTube, and like see where it goes, you know, supporting that way. And then I built up a bunch of steam on TikTok and a bunch of steam on Facebook. So like, it's kind of, so now it's in the back of my mind. Like, I'm like, well, if I ever got to that point, I would transition over.
Yeah. And like, your thing is like, you have like a wide net, like you're not focused on any one particular topics. Like, you'll talk to anyone about anything. Now, when I'm thinking about like my channel, it's such a specific thing. I'm like, are there enough people interested in fishing in order for me to like blow up and have a big channel? Well, I'm finding out there are. Like, TikTok is pretty legit. Like, there's a ton of people out there making content. So I mean, yeah, it's definitely possible, and I would love to do it. Sure.
It's crazy, because I always tell everybody, right? Like, TikTok, you have to understand what it is, right? It's a networking tool, but it's also it builds leverage in something you're trying to do, whether you have a TikTok shop, whether it's, you know, whether you are trying to, you know, do makeup or tutorials or whatever. But that community is strong, right? You can reach out and actually talk to people on TikTok, where you can't really do that on any other social media platform, which is why you leverage it the way it's been used in that realm, right? Like, there's really no other platform to do that.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And the way it's so easy to be interactive with people on TikTok, especially because, you know, I get DMs all the time and I answer every one of them. Now, I can only imagine if I had like 1 million followers. Like, you know, I'll log in and I'll have like 20 messages and I'm like, oh, I gotta, you know, I don't want to be a jerk and ignore people. But I can see how it might, you know,
I mean, at that point, you hire people, right? I mean, anybody I've talked to as an influencer said when they started off, it was just them. Then they needed help, so they got somebody, and then that person did all their social media stuff. And then, you know, anybody who has a big channel has a team of people. It's not just that one person doing it, right? So it's somebody else. You know, I talked to a lot of musicians, right? It's easy when you have 4 people doing it, because, you know, one person can take control of Facebook, one person does Instagram, one person does TikTok. It makes it easier, right? But when you're all by yourself and you have a big following, you need help. There's no way to do it. You have to bring people in, and it's
no doubt. And you know, something else that's pretty cool is there are some other local. I don't know if I coined this term, but I call them fishfluencers.
Okay.
You know, local ones that have pretty big followings that I've talked to, and they're like, oh, this guy's name is Jay Sunfish. He has a ton of followers. And then there's another guy, it's like Chicago Angling or something. They reached out to me and they're like, hey, we should all do a like collaboration when the weather gets nice. We'll all go out and fish together. And if we get skunked, which is means you catch nothing, they're like, we'll just blame you. Like, it's because you were there. And I was like, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Good. So it's cool, the community, you know, the community that locally that has kind of developed in front of my eyes. Like I didn't know that this existed, and everyone, like the thing about fishermen is like if you see one walking by, you know how like when bikers pass each other, they always do the thing, right? It's almost like a nod and then get anything today, catch anything today. It's like automatic.
Right.
And I end up having like 10, 15, 20-minute conversations with every fisherman I talk to out there. It's just a really cool thing. Like a bonding thing that I enjoy for sure.
Yeah. So now I noticed a couple of the videos, right? When you walk into a Cabela's, right, and you have like the lures, are you starting to know now the terms of like what catches what? Like you buy specific things for, on your video the other day, you said, oh, I'm buying this for this particular fish. Let's see if they bite it. Are you starting to get more now into the ins and outs of it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like when I started, I was just throwing anything in there, and I'm like, why am I not catching anything? There's specific times of the year, water temperatures. Like I got into this. Right now, I'm in this crankbait kind of phase where I just love throwing crankbaits, but it's the time of year to do it. And crankbaits are super cool because they're almost like art. They're very intricately painted and they just look really cool. And so I'm really into that. And I know that there's a couple other things, like when it's really cold outside, there's something called drop shot fishing where you tie like a weight on the bottom and it sinks and then your bait will suspend. So it doesn't sink all the way down to the bottom, it just kind of floats there because fish don't like to chase when it's super cold. So yeah, I'm like I mentioned earlier, I'm like the coach that can't play, but I know, like I know the stuff I'm supposed to do. So yeah, I'm like, whenever I go into Cabela's, I talk to the employees for forever about, I'm just soaking up everything they have to say. So yeah, when I go into Cabela's now, I go in with a purpose. I know what I'm there to buy based on the time of year it is, or, the water temperature.
Right.
And whereas before I just go in and wander around, like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And I've recently started paying particular attention to water temperature because as soon as it hits 50, pre-spawn is going to start, and that's when the fishing is the best. Like it's right before they're going to spawn, so they're just eating everything in sight. And yesterday the water temp was like 47, so we're getting close. And I know the water temperature because if you've seen my videos on the castable sonar that I got, cast this thing out there, it gives you the water temp, depth to the bottom. It'll show little fish that I constantly say aren't there. And like I did a video the other day where I'm like, I think the person that got me the sonar got it from Spencer's Gifts, and it's like a trick gag sonar because I never catch any of these fish that it says are there. But yeah, so the water temperature is huge based on what kind of lure I'm going to be throwing for sure.
Okay. Now, what about budget? Do you kind of have like a certain amount that you would say, all right, I have this amount of money to spend on lures, bait, equipment, or do you just kind of like say whatever happens? Or
yeah, well, yeah, my wife and I have different opinions on budget when it comes to my fishing for sure. But like I have enough stuff right now where I wouldn't have to buy anything for a while, and I'd be perfectly good to go fishing in any environment. But it's like anything else, right? Like any other hobby, you want stuff.
right.
Like, I need a new rod, and I'm done buying rods for a while now because my wife let me have it the other day. She's like, is that another fishing rod? And I don't buy the cheap stuff. I only like to not catch anything with the best high-end stuff. So yeah, I'm done for a while, but it's like anything else. I'll make sure everything is covered, mortgage everything, and I leave myself play money. And it would be like when I was golfing, I think fishing is less expensive than golf, by the way, because pay like $80 every time you go golf. But the money that I was using on that, now I just disperse how I want, when I'm looking at fishing stuff. So yeah, I stay within a budget.
Okay.
I try not to get too crazy.
And then, so now you have a certain kind of like ideology of what you're doing with this. As you build momentum now and you build steam and you start getting that, is that something where you would say, okay, if somebody invites me out to Florida, or if somebody invites me out to California, or somebody invites me out to Utah, am I going to go? How are you kind of considering now that planning vacation and scheduling around fishing trips?
Yeah, I would 100% entertain
Okay.
that idea. And especially because wherever people live, they think the best fishing is there. They're biased, right, to
Mhm.
their environment. Like, oh, you got to come up here. It's way better than down there. I will, and I can guarantee you, I probably will catch as many fish up there as I do down here, which is usually zero, sometimes one. But yeah, that would be totally fun. I would love to do that too.
Okay.
Uh, yeah,
Now, I want to talk a little bit, kind of not on not a touchy subject, but sometimes I ask,
yeah.
how is like your employment with you having a TikTok channel and being out there? Have you talked to? Because I
Yeah.
had to do it. That's why I ask.
Yeah, so my boss, the director, yeah, I'm a 911 dispatcher. The director of FedEx one day walks up to me and goes, "Hey, I couldn't sleep last night." And I'm like, "Oh, that sucks. Why?" It's like, "I found your TikTok channel." He goes, "I was scrolling through all your videos. I woke my wife up laughing." And he's like, he follows me. He watches, like, he thinks it's hilarious. And I was concerned about that because I'm swearing out there and just
Yeah.
again, organically, like what any dude would do if he tried to cast a fishing rod and his lure got stuck in a tree. Anyone would be like, you know launching expletives.
Yeah.
I'm just actually filming it now. But yeah, I mean, I'm not doing anything illegal, so
Yeah.
like,
Because I
uh,
always get right, like, because every
yeah,
time I talk to somebody and they say you have a podcast, like, I always get the shock, like oh, you do, and I was like,
yeah,
yeah, I was like, and I had to go to the boss and get permission from him and say, like, and I got to talking to, right, that I can't say anything specific, and I
yeah,
can't mention certain things, and I can't, obviously I leave politics and religion out of it for that reason.
right,
But I mean, like, for the most part, like, I had to go through all the channels to say, okay, this is what I'm doing. And then obviously the big question is like, are you making money off of it? Because once you start monetizing it, and I was like, well, I haven't gotten to that point yet. But if I ever do, obviously, I'd have to declare it as second employment if I
right.
started getting an income out of it. So, like, hopefully one day I can be successful enough to where I could say, yeah, I'm making money off of it. But like, I had to get the talking to about it for
Yeah,
obviously the
yeah,
platform that you're on. So, like, I had to get the permission and the go ahead and and I know some people didn't like it. They were like very watching me very closely about what I talked about and specifically what I said. And that's why I kind of keep like the work stuff out of it. And I talk to people like this about their hobbies, because if I started getting into like the politics of things, like people that actually have political podcasts, like, it would cause me a lot of damage. So I just stay away from it.
yeah, yeah. No, that makes total sense. And I've done some political satire in my videos here and there, but nothing crazy. Also, you just want people to watch your channel and have fun. You don't want to
Yeah,
be
that's it.
alienating anybody. So if I do like take a jab, comically, it's definitely bipartisan jab. I'll
Yeah.
take, you know?
No, right. Yeah.
Uh,
It's
yeah,
exactly it. Right. And it's like, it doesn't matter what side
yeah,
of the fence you're on. It's just, I've talked about it, right? People will ask me questions. I just try to avoid it on the podcast, right? Or
yeah,
like when I'm doing a TikTok live and somebody comes in, they'll start talking about like religion and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm not going to change anybody's mind in 30 minutes, right?
right.
You have a whole life of beliefs. What I say is not going to influence you in 25 minutes on a TikTok live doing a podcast style conversation. So like, I
Yeah.
just try to leave it out. I'm open minded to everybody's opinion and what they are. Obviously, like, I have my beliefs, and you're probably not going to change my opinion, and I'm not trying to change yours. But it just seems to always that those are the two things where it always goes south real quick.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like me just doing this silly stuff on TikTok with the fishing and stuff, like I wasn't concerned really about like my employer. I'm like, maybe I just wouldn't wear like any stuff
Yeah, yeah,
where
that's
I work and
sure.
stuff, right? I was very careful about that. I early on, I had a couple shirts on with the name.
Mm,
I was like, I gotta,
right.
that's such a great idea. But this is the first podcast I've done, and I have a couple others that I was asked to do potentially on the horizon, and one of them is fishing related. One of them is not, and that one is mental health and first responders. And I went to my employer, and I was like, "Hey, kind of like what you did. I'm like, I just want to make sure this is cool." And they're like, yeah, just don't specifically mention where you work or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, totally cool. So I get it, because I know saying the wrong thing or giving off the wrong impression can just totally wreck someone's life, unintentionally.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I got the go ahead on that kind of similar.
And I'm all for the mental health and first responder stuff, because that's actually why I started the channel, was I wanted to get more involved in that. And I kind of like went sideways. But my first couple people that I had on my podcast, my buddy Paul that I worked with for years, he was going through a bunch of stuff, and he's like, "I'd like to talk about it, like be open about it." I'm like, "Yeah, come on." And so that's kind of what we did. The only thing is I didn't want to form that, right? I didn't kind of want to go like, talking to all your, law enforcement buddies and first responder buddies, because it's like, it's such a niche thing. And then I think it gets tiring, and it's like most people don't want to come on open air and, fish out all their problems, right? And kind of, so it's not the time or place to do it. But I am also about the, mental health issues and any job, right? Not just being a first responder, but like just in general, right? Like all the stresses that come with jobs and lives, and people have issues and stuff, and they bottle everything in, and it's like, I'm all about talking about it. So yeah, kudos to you for doing that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, and the fishing stuff is a major outlet, for my stress relief. It is definitely, it's a coping skill. It is definitely a coping skill, and I get enjoyment out of other people laughing. So it's it like, I enjoy fishing, and if people are gonna laugh, and I've gotten quite a few people message me saying, "Hey, I was having a really bad day, but this video made me laugh. Thank you." And that's awesome. So if that happens too, it's super cool. And it definitely would. If I didn't have this, it would have to be something, because you can't, in the field that we work in, is you need something, right? For sure. Because it's no joke. There's a stigma to it, and I think that's pretty crappy that there's like a society has a view on that, especially in terms of first responders. Like, well, you don't want to say anything because like you don't want to get fired. Well, like that's not good. So, so I'm really big on that as well. For sure.
Yeah. So when you do that, promote it and let me know, and I'll help out. And if, you ever, need anything, I know we talked about that before, right? And it is kind of a sensitive subject, right? Because some people don't want to hear about, the woes of your, job. And like, they're like, well, I have a job too, and it's stressful, right? So, but like, I always try to make this as uplifting and positive as I can. And I know your channel's the same way. So that's like kind of a cool thing, right? That you bring enjoyment to people, and people actually watch you, and they share you, and they want to be involved with what you're doing. Right. So it's kind of a unique concept where people are reaching out to you now and saying, "Hey, I'd love to be, on your channel. I'd love to fish with you. I'd love to, go out and just take a walk with you, right? And watch you fish." And it's like, it's kind of a humbling thing.
Yeah, for sure. And, when I'm out there, like all the stressors of like work and even like home life and finances, that's separate. I'm just out there. And it is just a very relaxing thing just to be outside and just unplug from that. And it's like, I'm also very careful not to, like you had just kind of touched on it, like, oh, I don't want to hear about your woes, I've got woes too. Also, I'm very careful to not minimize other people's stuff, because I don't want to go off on a tangent too much, but
no, I know what you mean.
To like the work thing, like people will call 911, and like I'll be telling someone like the calls I took today. They may have asked me, like my wife or whatever, and they'll roll their eyes like, "Oh, they called for that." It's like, well, it's all relative, right? If someone's calling 911, in their mind, it's bad enough
Mhm.
call, even though it might not be serious to you. You have to try and remember, like, to that person, it's pretty important. So to not minimize, like, what they're
Sure.
doing. And I try and apply that now everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, you know, oh, you don't have a stressful job. I do this. It's like, well, I'm sure it's extremely stressful to them,
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's something that I want to say that's a good thing that I've taken away from the public safety field is trying to be objective and not to minimize people's thoughts and
Yeah.
feelings like that, for sure.
Awesome. So as we're coming up to the end of this, tell people where they could find you. I'll drop your link to everything. I'll mention
Yeah.
your TikTok channel and all the other stuff in the link in the bio. But where could people find you? Where could they reach out to you? Where could they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so on TikTok, which is my main platform, Mike's Crappie Fishing. Now, a lot of people thought it's crappie, like I'm trying to catch crappie the fish. Not. It's crappie with a Y. So Mike's Crappie Fishing. And if you hit me up on there, I will respond. And then I also have a YouTube channel that I don't post to nearly as much, and I should.
You should.
Same thing, Mike's Crappie Fishing.
Yeah. So just as a side note, everything you do on TikTok, you can download it and upload it to YouTube. Just so you know that, because YouTube is where you'll make your money.
Yeah.
If you get 1,000 subscribers, that's kind of where the bread and butter is in this kind of internet field. So if you're starting to do that, like, TikTok is great, but like the financial, the money will come from YouTube. That it's always been that way. So yeah, if you can put everything on YouTube, it's a better way.
Yeah, I should start doing that. See, I know that. I'm still naive to this whole process.
I was too. I had no idea. I just had some really good teachers along the way. Obviously, my wife's business, she does her thing, but she's an influencer on a whole different side. But all the people that were doing that, I just implemented into what I was doing. It worked.
Yeah.
So that's how I knew about this and how to like kind of navigate through it. But I didn't have a TikTok until last January. I had no idea what it was. You know, and Crystal's been on it for 3 years, and I never really made the connection. And now I'm like thrusted into social media in a whirlwind that I wasn't really expecting.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I was always one of those, I'm never going to get TikTok guys. And my kids were like, you got to get on TikTok because your stuff is like made for it. So I was like, all right, I'll get on there. And now like my kids will post and I'll be like, do you need some help with your TikTok? Because that was pretty weak, right? I'm like, how many followers do you have? Oh, 100? Oh yeah, you're real popular. I got the business now, but they're responsible for getting
and it's crazy because everybody has to start somewhere, right? Like, that's what most people don't realize. Nobody starts a channel and goes from 0 to 1 million unless you have prior celebrity status, right? Like, you kind of have to understand that, right? If a movie star starts a TikTok, she or he is going to get 500,000 followers in the first hour. Like, that's just a given. But if a normal person starts it, it's a build. It's not, you don't go from 0 to 10,000 like this. It's time and consumption. And I think people have this false sense of like, why am I not getting followers? Why does this person have 5,000 and I have only 11, right? Like, everyone starts somewhere, and it's mostly at the bottom.
Yeah. And I mean, to that point, like, I remember when I had 100 followers, I was like, oh my God, I got 100 followers. This is awesome. And, I had always said, like, even if no one was watching the videos, I'd still be posting them because I liked doing it. I liked the editing, and I just kept grinding. And next thing you know, like, I think I'm knocking on the door of like 5,800 now.
Yeah.
And it's just wild to think that.
Right. It's bizarre because I'm in the same boat. I think I'm at 57, 70, something like that. Yeah. But my goal was never to get like 100,000 followers. My goal was to get people to watch my videos. So if I had 100 people that watched my videos all the time, I'd been much happier with that than having 10,000 people who never watched the thing.
Right.
And that's why I never bought any of my followers. Like, TikTok always says, give us $80 and we'll get you 10,000 followers. And I'm like, well, I just don't want 10,000 random people. I'd rather have 100 people who like what I'm doing than to have some no-namers that I don't even know that don't watch any of my stuff and don't like or comment. That's, it's more, definitely quantity over quality.
And what I found out, because I looked into that, the promote stuff. And it's like, if you buy your followers, the algorithm kind of punishes you because you're not growing organically.
Yeah.
Because what happens is I guess, yeah, they'll give you followers, but then those people end up unsubscribing because they're not interested,
Right.
in what you're putting out. So that's why growing it organically helps you.
Yeah,
keep
organically is the best because people will actually watch your video, they'll like it, they'll share it, and they'll comment on it, which is what you want people to do because that's what helps the algorithm, right? It's
Yeah.
the amount of views that you get on a specific video or your content. It's not the amount of followers you have. That's irrelevant. It's
Yeah.
whether people are interacting with you and they're sharing your stuff. Because the more people that share your stuff, that's what they start to see because now they know you have engagement.
Yeah.
And that's what they want. They want engagement. They don't want, a million people every day will join TikTok, but not a million people will engage with you.
Right. Right. And I think that's super important is engaging with your followers. Like if I had all these followers and people were commenting, and like I know if I comment, I want a response, or a like or whatever,
Yeah.
just acknowledgement. And
That's it.
yeah, I think it's super cool that I can
Yeah.
interact with
And there's nothing wrong with saying it, right? Like if you put out a video and say, hey, listen, I'm trying to grow my channel. Will you just like and follow this video? See how
Yeah.
many you get out? And people will do it. The people that like you and support you will definitely start sharing your stuff out. When I go live on TikTok, I get at least the first 6 people on that, like, they know that I'm going live. They'll share the video out. That means the world to me, right? It's not if they're giving me gifts, right? Like, I don't need a penny or 2 penny gifts. I'm not in it to make money that way. I want my traction, right? Because ultimately I want YouTube to pay me. That's where I want eyes on my channel, right? So when I hit 1,000 subscribers, YouTube will start giving me $25, $30 a month, and then as I start growing, that's where people are making, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year with a good channel.
Yeah.
Between sponsorships and commercials and videos and people using their namesake, and that's what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Ultimately, that's
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, we'll both get there. We'll
Yeah,
both
we absolutely will.
millionaires one day. So
All right, Mike. Well, thanks for doing this. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. You're welcome anytime. And anytime you want to go fishing, let me know. We'll do it together.
Yeah,
And
let's do it. Let's do it.
yeah, and we'll have you on again, and we'll see where you're at in a few months, and see where the channel's grown, and see what you come up with, and we'll watch all your adventures together.
Awesome. I appreciate it, man.
All right, Mike. Take care. Good luck.
All
to
right,
you.
you too.
All right.
Sure.